going to ask you the question, Judd, and then Alex can react. How important is this game, Vikings Chiefs? Give us some sort of rating, like out of 10 potential pumpkins, how many pumpkins is this game worth?
Um, I would say, well, if Mahomes was playing at full strength, I would say the pumpkin ratio, the pumpkins would be probably like 8 or something because it'd be a great test.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to play though, so I'm going to take it down to 6 because here's where I think it's important still. It's on the road, really tough environment. That stadium is rocking. It's a lot of fun. And you're still going against an offensive mind in Andy Reid who's very, very good. The defense is not great, but this is the type of game that, Kirk can struggle in. And so I'm going to put, because it sort of sets off a chain now of what? You go from this to Dallas on the road at night on a Sunday night. That's a really tough game. Denver, not super tough, but then after the bye, you come back and play a tough game on a Monday night in Seattle. I'm going to say at least 6 pumpkins because it is a big game. It's against a not a great team, but a tough team, a really good offense. And here's the flip side too. Forget Kirk for a second. Xavier Rhodes.
Yeah.
Like, is he still going to play as much? Is he not going to play as much? I'm sure that Reid, after watching the Washington film, right, Alex, has been salivating. So it's an important game.
I mean, I agree with you. I think it's at least 6. I think it might be a little bit more because I think that Andy Reid makes up for this offense, right? Like, you're looking at it, and we joke about Matt Moore, but Matt Moore is actually not a bad quarterback. Like, when all you have to do is catch the ball and throw it right away, it's not that hard of a job. Like, you just got to keep your composure and know who your primary is. Like, they have a really good receiving core. And to me, that's like, hey, this is a good test for the defense because, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, you're right. It's probably not going to play. It's not worth risking the franchise over a game. And yeah, you're like, hey, listen, that could be the season. But this franchise is like, hey, listen, quarterbacks aren't growing on trees anymore. They're not going to be easily defined. And so now we have one of the most premier guys. We need to protect him at all costs. And if that means he's got to wait a couple extra weeks to get healthy, then it is what it is because we don't want to have to keep moving on quarterbacks because we see these teams that are just swinging gate of quarterbacks. And it's like, dude, they'll never find the right one. We have a good one. So I agree that it's at least a 6. I think it's a good test for the defense, but it's also a good test for this offense because this defense has been playing better as the weeks go on, which is weird to me because you're looking at a defense from last year that was like helter skelter at best. And Steve Spagnuolo comes in and just is like, okay, well, I got the winning formula. Like, to me, that's kind of crazy. So I'm interested to see how this offense attacks this defense.
And Mike Zimmer pointed out that Kansas City has been blitzing way more. And I think this is an opportunity for the Vikings to have a big game offensively. I wrote about it that Kirk Cousins is at the top of the league against the blitz. He often has been. I think he's a guy, if he could diagnose early, like before the snap, that he knows exactly where all of his hot routes are going to be. He's got a good sense for where the defense is. And he gave a really good answer when I asked him about why he's been so good against the blitz throughout his career, because he knows that there's going to be spaces in the defense where he can get rid of the ball and find someone open. But I mean, with this Kansas City team, they have enough talent on the defensive side, and someone like Tyrann Mathieu, who has not been a huge game changer for them so far, but we know he can be. And this might be one of those games where they can throw off Kirk with a little bit of extra stuff in there mixed in. Every once in a while we see this, but I don't know, guys. I think that the top way that any team can stop Kirk Cousins is by having a 4-man rush that succeeds. So this is where I want to see, how does Spagnuolo attack Cousins? Is he going to continue to go with the blitz, or is he going to let them prepare for the blitz all week long? Oh, they're ready. Okay, Kansas City's blitzing every other play now, and then not do it at all and try to let his front four get back there, because they do have some players in their front four who are pretty good. And Chris Jones was out of practice. If he plays, he's a pretty good player. And that's where I think that they can make a difference against the Vikings on defense. But overall, you should just take care of business with them, right? Like, they're not a great defense, even if they're halfway decent. And this is where we should see the Vikings go to KC. And if they win a shootout, then they have to win it that way. But because they have versatility as a team, they should be able to do it no matter what happens. Like, if Kirk doesn't show up, they should be able to slow down Matt Moore. If Matt Moore does put up some points, they should be able to match. Like, this is what the good teams can do, and this is what we want to see them do, is win a number of different ways.
No, I agree with you. I think that when you look at this team, you're saying, hey, listen, this is in Kansas City, which is easily, I mean, you're talking New Orleans, Seattle, Kansas City, in places to play. It's just terrible, and they're going to be hyped up. They're coming off a tough game against Green Bay. I mean, this has the makings to be a really, really fun game because the game plan is going to be a lot like Chicago. It's going to be, hey, listen, we're going to try and get the ball out of our hands quickly, get it to our playmakers as fast as we can, not let this quarterback make any heated plays. But not only that, hey, listen, we don't have our left tackle out right now. I mean, we can't let Cam Irving out here blocking all these guys. I mean, you're going to have Everson Griffith out there. You're going to have Danielle Hunter. They're going to be twisting. They're going to be doing everything they can. I mean, this offensive line is going to be under a lot of scrutiny. They don't want Matt Moore in a bad situation.
Cook is key, right? Too, because if I'm
not
mistaken, they can't stop the run.
Yeah, they are
third worst in the NFL.
So that's my key.
Right. You're just going to hand it off to Dalvin and watch him run down people's faces. But I think that when you go on the road, though, and you go into an environment like this, you gotta keep punching them right away. You know, you got to, for the whole first quarter, you just beat on them. And all of a sudden, you take the stadium out of it. And then it becomes a very equal game. You know what I'm saying? Because the fans are going to be hyped up for a long time, right? They just watched this team play really tough against Green Bay. Like, they're going to be really hyped up. Like, hey, listen, this is another formidable opponent from the NFC North. We might have a chance to take this game. Probably not. But at the end of the day, we're going to be really fired up. We're going to be excited. All of a sudden, you just watch your defense get beat to hell, and all of a sudden, you're like, you know what? Pack it up. Let's go home.
Is it fair to say then, because I was talking to someone from Kansas City this morning who said they actually expect Kansas City to win this game because
you don't say.
Well, I know, but usually, I mean, it kind of goes either way. There's some talk show hosts who are more kind of fans and they'll lean that way. Yeah, I know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And they'll lean that way and they'll pick their team all the time. I don't think this guy's like that. His point was just, look, it's Arrowhead Stadium. It's not easy to come in here.
It's tough.
And a lot of times we see this team, Kansas City, in recent years overachieve at Arrowhead Stadium because it's very tough to play there, like US Bank Stadium is. So that's why he was leaning that direction. But I look at what the Vikings have done in the recent weeks and the team that they have in terms of health, like where almost everybody is out on the field.
Yep.
And I say, if they lose this game, it should be considered a failure. It should be a pretty big disappointment. If you're not playing Patrick Mahomes, then yeah, that's one that you should write down as a W. You are the stronger overall team and go on the road, beat a decent team at a very, very tough stadium, but you can absolutely do this. Like, you are the better team as long as Pat Mahomes isn't playing.
What's the best guess on Kirk in this game too? Because you know what? He's won 4 games. He's been great. And I would say Giants win. Yeah. Okay. Eagles win impressed me despite the fact their game plan was terrible and their secondary was not good. Detroit win. Good. Washington, just not a good team. So do we think that this continues now, or is this a huge test as well? Because this is probably, as far as environment goes, as far as opponent goes, defense is not great. But you're on the road. Where does this rank as far as a test for Kirk?
What do you think, Alex?
Oh, this is huge. I mean, this is the playoff test right here. This is you're in the playoffs. You're on the road. This is it right here, right now. It's not going to get any wilder. I'm telling you, the 3 toughest places to play are New Orleans, Seattle, and Kansas City because their fans are so crazy. They live, breathe, and love football, and they're just there for the team. But the problem is when the team sees their team got beat the week before, they're like, all right, we're kind of on our last leg. Matt Moore, yeah, he could possibly do it. But then you watch the first couple quarters, you watch Dalvin, and you're like, you know what, guys, listen. There's always next year. Pat will be healthy next year. We can do it next year. Like, because they don't see teams like this walking into their stadium every week where they're like, hey, listen, we're just going to hand it to our running back 50 times. We're going to watch them just destroy you. And this is going to be fun for us because we're going to have a little fun. We're going to throw some smokes on some of this. We're going to do a little flare action over here. And it's going to be a little razzle dazzle. But at the end of the day, it's going to be all the same stuff because you just simply can't stop our run game.
And the way that Aaron Jones lit them up on their defense, that also points to me to the expectation should be that the Vikings win because they just have an unstoppable weapon for Kansas City's defense. But to your question, Judd, about Cousins, I'm going to say that in terms of if I'm giving him how many pumpkins is it worth out of 10 for how big of a test this is?
Yeah.
To me, it's only like 4 or 5 pumpkins. I mean,
really?
I know that it is on the road.
Here, I'd say that's exactly right.
Yeah, I know that it's on the road, and that matters to me that it's Arrowhead Stadium. It's a big deal to go on the road and win. But I would be putting my pumpkins much more in 3 other games than I would this one by quite a bit. If he doesn't play well in this one, we won't say, well, you know, that was tough. That was at Seattle or something. I would be saying, come on, man, that's not a good defense. That's a defense that you should be able to light up. But we've seen both sides here too. To win. Yeah. And with this one, if he walks out of there with an average game and they win because Delvin is great, I'm not going to say, oh, Kirk didn't show up and whatever else, and he proved he couldn't play at Arrowhead. I think it's just really not, because it's an AFC team, because it's not a great defense, I'm not looking at it as the same level of pressure on him as at Dallas and at Seattle. The at Dallas game is the one, and then then home against Green Bay later in the season. Those are the ones that I have circled much more because I think that those defenses are legit. I don't think Kansas City's defense is legit.
Seattle's problems too.
I think that they're going to be. It matters. The circumstances matter to me a lot with Kirk. Is it going to be a lot of 2nd and 3? Probably. Hand off to Delvin, he gets 7 yards, and then you're set up to do whatever you want. If you're going to Dallas and they've got those linebackers, then
I guess my point,
it's not going to be the same thing. I think
is this: if you shrink now, then I look at those past 4 games before this, and I'm like, whoa, did I see something or not?
Okay.
So my point
That's
is,
fair.
Environment is tough. Team is not great, but overall, they certainly could try and engage you in a potential shootout. If you shrink here, I'm going back to thinking, okay, is this the Kirk that seemed to turn a corner in 2019, or are we regressing back to the Kirk that we talked about and doubted a lot for the first 4 weeks of the season?
Mm-hmm.
I agree, because I think that if you go here and you lose, I mean, whether you win or lose, I think you're right. When you're talking about Dallas and Seattle, if you lose those games, it's like, hey man, those are really tough defenses. So it's really hard to judge how good a team is because number one, you're playing at their place. Number two, those defenses are really tough. I think if you don't win this game, there's some concern, yeah, because like you said, they're not good at stopping the run. Therefore, we should run all over them, and therefore you should throw play action the rest of the game. Like, it should be in your wheelhouse. This game should be right in your wheelhouse. I think if there's any test, it's more on defense with this receiving core.
All right. When we come back, Alex has to explain at least 1 or 2 things that you've mentioned so far in today's show and on Tuesday to Jonathan. He's been keeping notes. And Judd had a hot take, and now the Vikings will have an opportunity to do this. So I want to bring it up and run it by myself, I guess, and you, Alex Boone.
That was a really weird tease, and I don't even know what you're talking about.
How else am I supposed to tease that? Like, I had a hot take. I want to respond to your hot take.
Like an old hot take or a new hot take?
No, just like the other day.
Oh, Can I respond?
Yeah, of course. You're on the show.
Your guys' show.
Yeah, you're here.
I'm just I don't know what I am.
Just kind of dropping.
I just kind of dropped.
You're really here for